I will go backwards dun sa yung question. First, yung eradication. In many places, it took a long time to eradicate this. As our colleague Kate has said, in some parts of Europe, it took 20 years, sometimes 35 years to completely eradicate the virus. Now, the challenge that we have is the control of the transmission. When we say that transparency is needed, if I am a backyard pig grower, tapos I don't have information on what this is all about, and how it can be transmitted, ano ba epekto nito sa akin, what are the appropriate practices for me as an individual hog raiser or farmer to be able to help on the prevention of the transmission of the disease, then I will myself could be responsible for spreading it. So yung mga tao po yung itong African swine fever kasi, in some places they call this the pig Ebola. Nakakatakot po yung itsura kasi ng baboy. Pag nakita ninyo, and it's affected by this virus. It's a hemorrhagic disease. Dumudugo yung baboy, very similar to Ebola in humans. Now, that creates a bit of panic. Kung makita mo na sunod-sunod na namamatay yung mga baboy mo at di mo alam yung gagawin, the first reaction is to get rid of, there are two things, One, somebody who might want to earn some money from the pig, but ay syempre na itapon because they invested a lot of money and support in this, money into the farm. They might want to cut up the meat and then sell it immediately so that they can earn money out of it. Kung wala pong information that actually creates dangers for transmission, then people will be doing that. We've heard of reports of pigs being left by the roadside. Ngayon, kung merong fluids na lumalabas dun sa baboy or dugo, any vehicle that will run over the fluids or the mud will be now a vector for transmission. So hindi mo mape-prevent yan, paano mo makakontrol lahat ng mga vehicles. So the information that we are looking for is information that is appropriate to the audience, to the farmers themselves, to the general public, sa ating mga kababayan na nasa ibang bansa. For instance, I know that there has been some pronouncements na huwag tayong magdala, but still it is not necessarily enforced. Kagagaling ko lang po ng ibang bansa, I was not even inspected for instance, kung meron talaga akong dalang parmaham. As we have mentioned kanina, in sausages, it can survive for 30 days. In some types of processed meat or some processed pig products like yung parmaham, yung mga mamahaling hamon na dinadala for na parang pasalubong, it can survive to up to 1 year. So this particular disease is very persistent, and we all need to play a role in the trying to prevent this from becoming a major catastrophe. What also has been mentioned earlier, China is losing a lot of pigs right now. We don't have much information kung ano pa talaga yung sitwasyon. Vietnam has been transparent. They have lost nearly 5 million pigs in less than a year on this disease. Their total pig population is about 27 million. Could you imagine that? What will be the effect on prices? What will be the effect on supply? So that's the level of information that we seek. Appropriate information and timely information that will help everybody and allay everybody's fears. Ngayon, kung meron tayong kakulangan, we also need to admit that. Then later on, we find out na yung ating sampling protocols ay medyo kulang din, at we're still sending samples of pig blood overseas. Ngayon, I think it is time for us to also admit kung meron tayong pagkukulang to be able to seek support from the appropriate authorities in other places so that pwede natin pagtulong-tulungan. Lahat po tayo apektado dito.
So next,
swine fever. Ulitin lang po natin, hindi po African swine flu. Yung flu kasi influenza. So we need to call it the appropriate terminology is African swine fever. Meron tayong avian influenza, yun maaaring tumalon sa tao. Para naman sa mga manok at mga ibon. But African swine fever, there is no evidence that it has the ability to mutate and to affect other species, including human beings. Ang African swine fever po is affecting the domestic or farmed animals na mga baboy at mga wild animals. Wild na mga baboy damo, ika nga. Merong particular incident in Europe, ang ehemplo po nito ay kung makikita nyo yung mapa kung saan tumama itong African swine fever, meron po sa Poland, meron sa Russia, pero meron kayong makikita dito sa may kaliwa, sa Western Europe, lumabas sa Belgium. Ngayon, mula sa Belgium at sa Central Europe at Western Europe, walang ibang incident. So, paano nakatalon itong virus na ito mula doon sa Eastern Europe papuntang pinakaduluduluhan ng Western Europe? Ang suspetsa po nila, which is not corroborated or finalized, it might have been somebody driving a truck or a vehicle galing po ng lugar tulad ng Poland, may dalang sandwich, kinain, tinapon sa labas, at kinain ng baboy damo. Now it is affecting the local pig population. So what we're trying to say is this virus is very persistent and it is necessary to get everybody's cooperation and provide the right information on preventing its transmission and to make sure that animal welfare and pig welfare, especially in the killing of the pigs to be able to control the disease, is a priority. As we have said, doing the inappropriate things like inhumane killing is not going to help the situation any further. So kailangan po we have to act with speed, we have to act with the appropriate response po.
Isang point lang na sinabi how it affects human. Pero kung titingnan nyo in terms of yung sa food security ng Pilipinas, malaki ho yung mawawala in terms of protein na supply na galing sa mga baboy. So this could, in fact, yung mga local hog growers, mawawalan tayo ng income. Even yung mga wet markets natin na reliant sa mga local growers, mawawalan din siya ng income. So kung titingnan nyo, kung hindi man lang sa aspect ng health, malawak yung food security implications nito, and at the same time, context din ng economic issues, lalo na sa Pilipinas, sa ating mga naghihirap na mga kababayan.
so next is for the other parts.
It's very
Po.
information to be able to deal with this outbreak appropriately. So kulang pa po. And in fact, if we're serious about trying to prevent the spread of this disease, then as we have said earlier, appropriate and timely information is necessary so that everybody can participate in preventing the situation from getting worse.
Yes.
Doing best practice that the Philippines can emulate. I've mentioned Korea, but maybe you have other opinions on that.
So I would look to parts of Europe. So the presentations, the webinar focuses on some best practice in Lithuania, but also Belgium has been very strong with their biosecurity practices and have managed to contain the outbreak just to the wild boar, and they've not had it into their commercial farms. So Europe has some examples of good practice, and I think the major concerns will arise also if the infection gets into some farms, because you simply cannot thousands of animals humanely in an inefficient and contained and humane manner. So the authorities will have to look at the option of
Yeah, Kate, could you turn off your video? We're losing it.
Now, if it's an appropriate injection, might be okay for small farms, but they need to be prepared for large farms with thousands of pigs, hundreds or thousands of pigs. They will need to use either electrical stunning that kills the pigs or gas procedures, and then confirm pigs that are dead, and then of course appropriate burial. And that takes planning and it takes time. So lethal injection would not be appropriate, it would not be efficient, and it would not be feasible for the large farms. They'll have to look at other best practice as suggested in webinar, as suggested in parts of Europe. And then of course good biosecurity is essential as well.
So ulitin ko lang po yung sinabi ni Kate, merong resources available talking about the best practices. So there are places like Lithuania and also Belgium that has good biosafety protocols. It is necessary to be prepared and to be proactive in the response and also to create appropriate transparency. One of the things that I think Kate mentioned before it was breaking up, that industrial farming systems where the animals are jammed together, very close together, creates the conditions for outbreaks like this to spread really, really fast. There are other issues related to that, and also in the use of, for instance, prophylactic antibiotics. Pag tayo po ay pump na antibiotics sa mga farms, then we also create issues on antimicrobial resistance, yung tinatawag natin superbugs. So this is now exacerbating the situation. Hindi lang po ASF ang ating tinitingnan. Yung ating pong system of industrial farming where animals are not treated appropriately is creating major problems for us now and into the future, and we need to rethink this as soon as possible. Lalo na ngayon meron tayong wake-up call that this farming system is not sustainable. We need to start having that conversation now.
Okay. So are there any questions po?
So we still would urge the Department of Agriculture to take leadership and to provide appropriate support sa local government units. Hindi po at this stage, sa tingin ko po, hindi po posible na i-centralize po yung ating response. Kailangan po it has to involve local government units, especially all the way to the barangay level. Kasi po, dahil nga kulang ng impormasyon, then it's very difficult to control the transmission of this disease if people are not participating in the effort. Alam po naman natin na hindi ganun kadami ang katauhan po ng ating mga government agencies. That is why information and proactive preparation and transparency is required so that we are able to deal with this together and hopefully keep the damage to a minimum in the industry, provide appropriate food security and economic benefits, and also put in the resources that is necessary for the future state of our farming industry to make it more sustainable, hindi lang po dito sa mga outbreaks and also in other issues, but also on issues like water pollution, carbon emissions, so on and so forth. Babalik po tayo sa root cause. It's the way we do our farming that needs to be addressed.
Dagdag ko lang. Baka pwede nating titingnan sa ngayon yung recommendation, hindi lang po tayo mag-focus sa mga hotspots or those already identified areas. I think it's also important for us to really look at other municipalities and cities na sabi nila, some of them they're closing down their cities and their boundaries na walang makapasok. Or even those cities na wala talaga silang alam, just to prevent this kind of problem. So, yun nga, meron naman tayong mga municipal agricultural officers or city agricultural officers, but at the same time, yung mandate and guidelines should come from Department of Agriculture based sa task force na binuo ng ating presidente or the national government. It's also good kasi ngayon yung ang ASF nga magdudulot siya ng problema sa iba pa, meron siyang domino effect. For example, kasi hindi na makakain ng baboy, so most likely kakain na tayo ng maraming isda, and then there's a lot of illegal fishing problem. And then probably we're going to replace it with chickens, which is, on the other hand, sinabi nga kanina, magkakaproblema. So hindi lang ang usaping ASF or African swine fever, hindi lang mo siya limited sa issue or sa species ng mga baboy, pero marami siyang kadugtong na mga issue sa iba't ibang usapin, sa iba't ibang resources ng pagkain sa Pilipinas. Hindi lang food security, malaki din yung issue dito in terms of economic impacts, and at the same time, in general, sa yung transparency and the participation of the community to address the problem. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, sige po.
Nagpatawag ng press conference ang Department of Agriculture declaring na nakapasok na sa bansa ang ESF. Kinabukasan, nag-announce na naman ng Department of Agriculture na wala na raw. Ngayon sir, hindi namin alam bilang ordinaryong mamamayan kung kanino kami maniniwala, sa DE ba, sa LGU ba, or sa NGO. Kasi after a week, nasupal pa lang Department of Agriculture dahil natuklasan nga ni Mayor Joy Belmonte na marami pa pala na may ES pa pala na dito mismo sa Quezon City. Anong pananaw niyo rito sir?
Ang ASF po ay napaka-persistent na disease, na viral disease. Hindi po masasabi na basta-basta na nawala na ang insidente ng ESF, lalo na kung confirmed na nakapasok. To be able to confirm kung meron kang ASF incidents, you need to do appropriate testing sa mga baboy through the blood sample. Meron po mga markers and all of that. I think it's not helping the situation by declaring na wala na yung ASF, dahil kung nandun pa and then wala namang definitive response na sigurado nang wala, it might still be spreading and creating additional problems. So, tingnan na lang po natin ang ehemplo ng China, ang ehemplo ng Poland, ng Russia. They have not been able to declare the situation as already resolved. And they have much more resources than we do to be able to address the situation. So, until we are absolutely certain through appropriate testing that there are no more incidents of African swine fever in the country, then I think we still need to be proactive in communicating to people, especially farmers, local government units, on the appropriate best practice to be able to prevent the disease transmission. Lalo na kung meron kang insidente at nagkaroon ng hemorrhagic fever ang inyong baboy, it's necessary to be able to take the appropriate measures. Ngayon, kung hindi alam ng tao kung ano yung nangyayari, then they might be spreading the disease further, which creates a sense of panic.
Sir, isa lang na tanong sa akin. Kung magpapatuloy itong kanya-kanyang pamamaraan ng bawat LGU para i-dispose yung mga ASF inflicted na baboy, do you think nare-resolve ba natin yung problema o lalo lang tayong nasusuong sa panibagong problema?
Lalo lang kung lalala ang problema if there's no coordinated response to this issue. As we have mentioned earlier, napaka-persistent po nitong African swine fever, at kung tayo ay nilulublob natin ang ating ulo sa ilalim ng buhangin at we do not acknowledge that the problem is actually quite serious, then we can expect that the disease will spread further if no appropriate measures are taken.
Okay, sir. Medyo naguluhan lang ako dun sa pamamaraan na gusto po ninyo, parang walang definite din on your part eh. Kasi iba-iba eh. May lethal injection na sinasagawa ang Quezon City, yet hindi kayo pabor. Ano ba talaga yung pamamaraan na acceptable na hindi ho nalalabag yung animal welfare? Sir, sandali lang sir. Sige po.
Meron tayong tinatawag na captive bolt procedure, meron tayong electrofusion, meron po tayong CO2 gas. So ang kailangan pong mangyari para pagpapatayin natin ang baboy to be able to control the disease, dapat po hindi mahaba yung suffering ng baboy. So yung mga minention po nating mga metodolohiya, tatlo po, that will provide least suffering sa mga baboy, and also to ensure na talagang siguradong patay na siya. And then after that, then you can do the appropriate burial procedures. Ngayon na hindi ko po alam sa ngayon if we actually, when we talk about lethal injection, ano po yung ginagamit? Yun yung tinatanong natin kanina, barbiturates ba ito? Are they using the appropriate dosage? Are they reusing the syringes, for instance? What are the procedures? So there are appropriate procedures for control of the disease. Ang aming panawagan ay let's be transparent that we are truly following the OIE guidelines and providing the best practice in terms of humane killing to be able to control the disease. Sa ngayon po kasi walang masyadong information na lumalabas. Meron po ba tayong capacity for CO2 stunning? Meron po ba tayong capacity for electrocution? Meron po ba tayong captive bolt equipment? Wala po tayong ganong klaseng impormasyon.
Sir, sinabi niyo kanina na nakakahawa ito sa pamagitan ng pagkain at pagpasa-pasa. Ditong nakarang araw lang, may mga natagpuang mga baboy na palutang-lutang sa mga kailugan sa Metro Maynila. Posible ba na ito'y mailipat doon sa mga isda na kinakain natin?
Hindi po. Yung African swine fever ay makaka-apekto lang sa baboy. Pero pag tinapon mo yung baboy sa ilog, then yung fluids, yung dugo, maaari pong inumin or gamitin yung tubig for feeding para sa ating mga baboy, then you will be transmitting the disease. There's also a possibility pag meron tayong tinapon na baboy and then it affects the environment, kunwari sa gulay, sa pagkain, tapos pinakain yun sa baboy at nag-transmit yung fluids and virus from a dead pig to another vector like vegetable or meat, tapos ginamit na tinatawag na feed or swill, pinakain mo sa baboy, yung baboy na yan maaaring ma-infect.
Balikan ko yung kanina, sir, nagpa-press ko yung DA na declaring na nandito na sa Pilipinas ang ASF. Kinabukasan, nag-declare naman sila na nakaalis na daw sa Pilipinas. And then after how many days, natagpuan nga ng Quezon City, Mayor Joy Belmonte na meron talaga. Ayun, kanino ba kami magtitiwala dapat?
Yun nga po ang problema, yun ang aming panawagan. We are looking for leadership from the Department of Agriculture to be able to provide timely and appropriate information. I don't think it is helping na magkaroon ng away-away publicly on this matter kasi nalilito talaga ang tao. Sabi nga natin kanina, merong appropriate measures. Pero ang tanong po natin, are we being transparent enough if the capacity is lacking? Ngayon po kung nagpapalitan tayo, meron dito, wala dito. In the meantime, yung mga taong nasa gitna, especially those that are responsible for the pigs themselves, yung mga backyard farmers or industrial farms, might be silently transmitting the disease and making the situation much worse.
And then lastly, sir, ano ba ang ginagawa ng World Animal Protection doon sa ating mga nag-aalaga ng mga hayop?
So kami po ay may mga resources and we provide information to governments. We have offered some support to other governments in particular to this disease. May mga kausap po kami around the region to be able to help address this. We have technical experts in the organization. Ang magagawa po lang namin, hindi naman kami ganun kalaki, is to be able to provide the appropriate information and give support whenever we are asked to.
Sir, bukod sa